Well, good afternoon, good evening, my friends from all over the world. I'm Erica Lukes, and you know that I truly love nothing more than hanging out with all of you every Friday night. I really appreciate the people that support me, the people that send me positive comments. I appreciate the people that have grounded conversations about my favorite topic on the planet. I absolutely, as much as this can be a negative topic, I really fully, at the end of the day, enjoy learning about so much and making connections with all of you and learning about things you're doing in your own countries. It is very cool. I want to thank Peter for helping me with social media. He is such a love to do that. And I also want to thank Mario, who is my right hand man, who is here every week. He has been here every Friday with me for years and years. And it is really important for me to have that support, and I thank all of you. And I also want to just mention all of the people that are Patreons to the show and who also get into the show and donate money that helps to not only pay for the show costs, which we're just almost getting there to cover costs, but also to help archive. Now, I've been posting information about this wonderful treasure that I'm sitting on, and I don't know if I fully conveyed the importance of what I'm doing here and what others around the country and the world are doing to help preserve history. The subject is so interesting behind the scenes, and it is so easily swept under the rug. The history can be rewritten. We've seen, all sorts of things like that going on in our climate today in the country, trying to rewrite history, but we have to preserve it. And a younger generation has to learn from the mistakes that we've made. We have to be able to move forward because there is something genuine and that is worthy of study. So I appreciate all of you who helped me in that regard. I have over 140,000 documents that I'm in charge of scanning and preserving. And that is just, I'm just talking about the Androffel files, and these are unique files. Most have never seen the light of day, 99% of them. And I want to just hold this little gem up. Hopefully you can see this. This is from, or to Major Paul Dewich. This is going to be an exceptional contribution to the subject when all of this gets scanned and put forward. He had a sighting, and here you can see at the very bottom the signature of Donald Kehoe, Major Donald Kehoe, and the date 1958. So this is a one of a kind document. Chances are no one has seen this, and I have this. I'm in charge of preserving it, and I need your help. So thank you for your contributions. Thank you for helping me make it happen. On that note, I want to just say some of us who are doing the hard work behind the scenes, like Jan Aldrich, Barry Greenwood, who is my mentor and hero, and Dave Marler, people over at AFU, people that are really doing this, and they're investing not only a lot of their own personal time, but money. It costs money to go get an archive. Oftentimes, you have to buy that archive, and then you have to bring it back and have equipment that is capable of scanning at high resolutions. You've got to have equipment to transfer audio cassettes to a digital form, VHS tapes, microfilm. These things cost a lot of money. And also, then you have the fact that you have to house the materials. So, this is a big investment. This is something that nobody I know makes money off of. And it is, like I said, this is incredibly important to preserve the subject, to move forward, to learn from it. And I am very privileged to have what I have and all of the wonderful people who've donated to me over the years. You guys seriously rock. Thank you so much, and much love to Gordon Lore. I miss him dearly. And also to the Druffel family, to Richard Vitello, to Keith Chester, to all of the people that are just incredible behind the scenes who've helped me so much. So anyway, and I want to just say, hey guys, everybody in chat, thanks for getting in here. And again, I love seeing people from Ireland and the UK and down in South America. This is really cool. And hey Drew, how are you tonight? Simon, good evening. Um, okay, on that note, I have, in the past week, I have met two of the coolest guys on the planet. And I have to say that I'm so stoked because, as you know, I get into these funks and I look at, Skinwalker Ranch and uncover things that it's just a complete fraud is what it is. I'll just say that and come after me, send me a letter, do what you're going to do. But at the end of the day, I'll meet you in court and you can provide your evidence. That'll be fun for you. But the people that I'm going to have on the show tonight actually have a stake in this. They are doing things. They are investing their own money to get out there to create a wonderful platform to collect data and engage the subject, the phenomena, and see what we've got. So I want to just welcome both of you to the show. I have got John Tedesco and his brother Gerry. And you guys, seriously, you make me so happy.
Thank you. Hello again, Erica. How are you?
No, this is your first show, so congratulations.
Yes,
This
thank
is
you.
really, yeah, absolutely. And I want to just, I'm looking at both of your bios, and John, you've worked as a chief electronics project engineer and senior R&D safety engineer for Underwriters Laboratory for over 20 years. In that role, you've done extensive designs and builds of state-of-the-art analytical test instrumentation for the laboratories, extensive performance test research into technological products on the market, as well as safety testing. You've served as the chairman of the I.E.E.E., which is responsible for the advancement of technology for humanity, assisting the NTSB in airliner crash analysis. And they also conduct scientific peer reviews on new technologies for the scientific community. There is virtually no piece of technology on the market that John hasn't had significant hands-on experience, which includes advanced power systems, imaging systems, communications, optronics, thermography, acoustic systems. John is also a professional educator specializing in the technical education of complex electronics theory and concepts, which you've taught professionally for several years. Wow. Okay.
Wow, that's an introduction.
Well, this is just incredible. And then Gerry, and I want to thank you so much for reaching out to me. But you began your professional career in both public health and forensic science. You worked as an EMT, a forensic lab analyst at Suffolk County Office for the Medical Examiner, a laboratory technician for Underwriters Laboratory, behavioral evidence analyst, a criminal profiler. That must have been fascinating, where you served as a forensics consultant on the Terry Schiavo, oh my gosh, pronounce that for me.
Terry Schiavo.
Schiavo, thank you, Schiavo case, and I think all of us remember that.
Yes.
Gerry changed careers and trained in CAD engineering technologies, where he worked in the military defense contractors industry for 30 years. In that role, you held a DoD secret clearance to work in widely diversified areas of sensitive defense technologies, such as RSTA and avionics systems for the Armed Forces of Homeland Security. Okay, wow, and how refreshing. You guys actually have the credentials you say you do, and you can back it up.
I'll tell you something. That is a one crazy introduction.
Well, it's true. This is so. This is really, and you're both just very genuine and humble people, and you are involved in the Galileo project, which we will talk about. And hi, Michael, and thanks. Hey, Phil, good to see you guys in chat. But first of all, I want to just ask both of you, and we talked about this this week when we had our conversation, but I want to ask each of you to tell us why you got involved in the subject and why you find this so fascinating.
Well, you want to start, Joe?
Yeah. Well, we had an interest in it since we were kids. We started reading books on it. There was an incident I think we had told you about it over the weekend. I'll let John tell you the incident.
With the Men in Black?
Well, actually, we had when we were kids, we had our neighbor babysitting us. And we had a knock on the door. And I don't know who opened the door. If it was my older brother. It was me and my 3 other brothers. We had an older brother named Pat, or Pasquale. But my neighbor was babysitting. We were, I guess, in grammar school. And I don't remember the ages. But they answered the door, and this guy was standing at the door in a fedora hat, a dark fedora hat, a dark suit. He had a pair of sunglasses on. It was nighttime, which was very unusual.
Yeah, and he just kind of invited himself in.
Yeah, kind of invited himself in, and for some reason we became mesmerized by him. He says he's a weary traveler, and he asked if he could sit down. So we followed him into the living room. He came into our living room, sat in a chair, and he had an attaché case with him. He had opened up the attaché case, and they said he was working for an exterminating company called Slugabug at the time.
Wow.
Was,
It's original.
so he opened up this attaché case, and he had a glass jar in there, a mayonnaise jar, with a fluid in it. We assumed it was some kind of insecticide or some kind of bug killer. We thought it was when we were kids.
We actually had no idea.
Yeah,
And it's he had books of
he had lots of books of
Edgar Casey,
Edgar Casey, and
futurists, those kind of things.
UFOs, prophecy, books on prophecy, that kind of thing. So he proceeded to talk to us, and he looked. Each of my brothers, we were sitting on the floor listening to the guy, and even my babysitter, our babysitter, was kind of mesmerized by him. And which is weird. We should have been frightened them.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of a captive.
He had a captive audience. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he looked at us, and he looked at my older brother Pat, and he says I can see a hunger for knowledge in your eyes. To all four of you. And he talked to Pat. He says you seem to have like some kind of a psychic sensitivity about you. So he proceeded to talk about Edgar Casey. He proceeded to talk about UFOs. He was showing the books. He had a bunch of documents with him.
Yeah, quite extensively. Too.
Yeah. I mean, I can't remember. I was very young, so I couldn't remember much of what he's specifically what he said. But Brother Pat remembers just about everything. But after a while, he was there for probably for an hour or something like that, and our babysitter was starting to get nervous at that time, and she had called her mother next door, and her mother came over, and they had told the strange guy that their parents were on the way home and you shouldn't really be here. Yeah. So he said, that's fine. He says he was finished, and he walked himself out.
He quietly left. It was he had no car.
Yeah, he walked out the door.
He just basically disappeared.
Yeah, my babysitter said she looked out as soon as he went out the door. She looked out and didn't see him anywhere. There was no car waiting for him. Yeah. So it was just bizarre.
Yeah, wow. I mean, the police department was called at the time, and they said he was probably scouting the neighborhood, going to other houses, but he never did go to any other house. He went to one house that was ours. You know, and nobody saw him. We have neighbors all over the place at that time. People were out in the street, but they, nobody saw him, and he just kind of, quietly disappeared.
So there was no record of him either.
Yeah,
no record of Slugabug.
And the weird part about it is, nobody could remember his face, his physical attributes. And over the years, we thought about it many times, and all we could come up with is some kind of man in black. It's so somebody.
It was when we started seeing them stories of the Men in Black that
so
he kind of that recollection came, and also the movie The Exorcist when that came out. With the only good thing when we saw the trailer for it with the priest with the dark hat waiting at the doorstep, that reminded us of.
That's not good.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not.
No, thank you. Yeah, no, that is disturbing, and I'm sure that your parents were very concerned. And did your babysitter ever come back after that?
Yes, actually, we had talked to her after recently, we talked to you. We had talked to her recently. We asked her if she remembered that incident.
Wow.
And she said yes. She says the guy made my skin crawl.
He says he creeped her out. He says that she does not have any memory of him other than his hat.
His hat,
and like I said, that was the interesting part of it. Is that none of us could remember what he looked like, other than he was very tall.
Yeah.
And he just carried himself in an unusual way. And
it was just a strange guy, and that kind of inspired our interest in that subject because my brother Patty got really into it, and he had gone to libraries to research the books that he was talking about. So my brother Pat brought them home, and then we looked at them, and that kind of helped inspire our interest in UFOs and the paranormal.
Right.
I like I said, I don't know who the guy was or what he meant, but
And I thought, well, I see him as a symbolism for something, especially for for what we're doing now.
Yeah.
And over the years, it's we've been pretty much on the lookout for weird objects in the sky and that sort of thing. And and over the year, I would say over the years we have seen quite a bit of some unusual stuff, and which takes us into where we are today, with the Galileo project, which we tied into a year ago. So we're doing our own research at this point.
I love that. And I want to just say, when you go back to, a person who knocks on someone's door and tries to fill them full of information, we get reports like that about specific people up near the Skinwalker Ranch
Mm-hmm.
that are doing that and kind of playing on, people, especially up there, their belief systems, and then, telling people they're psychic and gifted and all sorts of things. So it's very interesting, and I'm glad that you guys are okay, because that must have been. I mean, that could have been a potentially disastrous experience, but how unusual.
Yes, it was.
And obviously, with the way that you vividly describe what happened, that was something that was a prominent thing that happened to you at a formative age. And so what year was that?
Oh boy,
I'd say that's like, it had to be like 75 or 70.
Yeah, mid 70s at some
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
It was, it was during a time, and I mean, I think I was sick at the time too. But it's this guy was, there was just something about him that that it just kind of sticks with you. For
I mean,
all these years.
when you're kids, you look at almost like a metaphysical type thing, and as you get older, you kind of drift away from that, but it's always in your head. And like I said, the fact that it inspired our interest, there was something. It helped. It did something.
But I mean, and that is interesting. I mean, as we were talking about over the weekend, I mean, just to go back and see where each of us found this kind of jumping off point where we saw something, either picked up a book from a library or had an experience with a man in a fedora or things like that. It's like you have this point in your life at a really like a pivotal formative age, and then it's like here we are now. And for me, I know that I don't think there will ever be a point in my life where I'm not interested in the subject, the unknown, and all of these things, even if I find more rational explanations as I go along. But I'm hooked.
Yeah, some people just gravitate when you at a young age and you develop this passion for it, and and you pursue it. It's I bet it's a lot of people, well, several people like that.
And so, what does your family think?
All about the guy in the fedora.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but just to that, then also your interest in the subject.
They thought it was pretty cool. They thought, and they found it interesting. When, they used to look at our books and stuff like that we get at the library.
I mean, they were very supportive of it, of the role.
Yeah, they were supportive of it.
And of course, you go to later on all these conferences and that sort of thing, and you hear the different stories, and some of it's pretty fascinating, I've we've personally ran into people that have documentation on this stuff,
and you look at it with a more critical eye as you get older.
But it's
fun though.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like I think back at my my childhood, and even though I know my grade school teacher, when I was doing reports on aliens and little ants lying on the ground, saying help, and the rest of the the kids in the class are doing book reports on football players, or
exactly.
I mean, Barbies, like whatever. It's like, here I am.
Aliens. That's funny you mentioned. That's what we did when we were kids. We would ask the teacher if we could do book reports and go in front of the class and read our reports on UFOs and cryptids and that kind of thing. So that's kind of funny.
Yeah, there's always a stigma behind that, though. That you come off as a little strange and that sort of thing. There's you're kind of a little bit of an ice.
Yeah, but it's kind of funny though. It's
it is.
It's that interest that's kind of carries your throat.
So, do you have any of your old book reports?
I doubt it.
Yeah,
we've moved a couple of times.
some of that stuff. I could remember some of it being on reel to reel, on the small, one of those small 8mm cassettes, and
maybe.
I don't even know if those things you could play them anymore. The old magnetic tapes.
Yeah.
And I remember telling stories with the microphones. Remember?
Yeah, exactly. They're probably gone.
Yeah, that's
probably gone.
That's probably long gone now.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so fun though.
Uh-huh.
How cool though that you guys had that interest in. I mean, it's like I said, it's just a fascinating subject, and
Yes.
I love it. I love it. And so okay, so you start reading, and so what were some of the books that really grabbed your attention back after you had this Man in Black experience?
One of the first books we read was I think we both read the same book. I read it. You read it first, and I read the Chariot to the Gods. I think it was by Eric Donovan von Daniken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But
there's also one by J. Allen Hynek.
Yeah, the UFO Experience by J. Allen Hynek.
Yep.
We've read the Condon Report. After when that was released, wasn't impressed by it.
But there's been quite a few, and it's there's also
Wesley Stryber. You read
right,
some of those books,
right? Yeah, there's been quite a few actually over the years. At that time they were all paperback, all paperback books.
Yeah.
And
I remember I was talking about with my guest last week, seeing Communion, back when,
Yes. Oh, yeah.
it's just the cover. And it's really interesting because I got it out of my library again. I'm going to start reading it just for fun to see how, my 18-year-old mind might have, been going places that I wouldn't necessarily now. But even the gray alien, I'm quite surprised because the features, the proportions are different than what I remembered. And so I don't know. It'll be interesting to read that. And I will say Whitley Strieber he's a fascinating man, and one of the he's written his fiction is pretty incredible. So you never know.
Have you interviewed him?
I have not interviewed him. I would actually really love to interview him. He has fascinated me since I was, like I said, back in high school, and I love his writing. I love some of the things that he's done, and I really appreciate that. Do I believe Communion is what he's, I think that there's some questions
Exactly,
with things, but that's an interesting subject that perhaps if he comes on my show, I'll have to ask him about. And that was, back in a time period when abductions were, really big and things like that. And it's funny now, and I just want to throw this out here. It's interesting how right now we've got a new group of people they're looking at the missing fetus syndrome.
Yeah. How do you prove that?
Yeah, you really don't. And it's like, why would you even go down that rabbit hole? And I just want to digress for a second because I saw an investigator actually in a thread talking with somebody who had a miscarriage. And this investigator suggested that it was because of an alien abduction.
Right.
And my jaw hit the floor and my heart just sank. And I thought, wow, we gotta get it together, people. That's really dangerous. And I think that's when Ann Druffel was doing work into the missing fetuses and things like that. I think that's one of the things that was brought up, behind the scenes is this is really dangerous. We don't need to go here. So
yeah. One of the abduction cases that was always it's pivotal, I think, for us is the Betty and Barney Hill. And I remember, of course, I've watched it many times since then and listened to the recordings, the actual recordings under hypnosis. But in 1961, I believe it was 61. The incident happened
between 61, 63.
And,
I'm not sure.
I found it to be, quite interesting that the star constellation that she had pointed out at the time wasn't proven until almost 10 years later.
Something like that.
It was looked at astronomers and so forth, and
it's interesting.
It's a newly discovered,
the Zeta Reticuli.
Zeta Reticuli, and that's something that they're talking about now.
What was
You know,
interesting is when she drew a binary sun system. I believe at that time we weren't aware of binary sun systems.
Yeah, the binary stars. Yeah.
And you know, so and of course you can match up the chart pretty well.
Yeah, yeah. But it was drawn so well.
Yeah.
You know, there was so much detail to it
Mhm.
that they said that, you know, it lines up almost perfectly, you know, with a computer generated model.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, some of the stuff. I mean, neither one of them are alive now, Betty or Bonnie Hill. But I believe the daughter is still carrying on, you know, the story and the facts, you know, that were behind it. But I found you know, even recently I found the recordings, you know, um, the hypnotic sessions that she was under to be quite fascinating, because, you know, she talks about things in specific detail that, you know, I mean, some of it's pretty incredible, you know, and you know, the fact that this is also one abduction case where they actually had radar evidence that there was an object at that time, you know, where they had this encounter, you know, up in New Hampshire. Yeah.
There were claims that the car was magnetized. The metal in the car was magnetized, which is interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
It is interesting, and it's, you know, I think I mentioned maybe in last week's show that I would love to have a panel discussion about the Betty and Barney Hill case, because as things have, you know, come out, I know that people have definitely questioned the validity of that case, and specifically the star map, which I find fascinating. I am lucky enough to live in Utah, where I have the University of Utah Special Archives, and Dr. Frank Salisbury did a tremendous amount of work. In fact, he wrote a book called the Utah UFO Display, and he has quite a bit of research on Marjorie Fish, on the Betty and Barney Hill case and things, and so it was interesting that, you know, there's some questions in the case that the more you look at and sit back, it again, it would be a really interesting thing to have a panel discussion, and, you know, potentially invite Kathleen Marden on, who is the niece of Betty and Barney Hill, because she is, like you said, carried on, you know, that, you know, that case, which was historically significant for many reasons, but it's, you know, it's fascinating, and some of these things have definitely left an imprint on the psyche of, you know, the public. So
Exactly. Yep.
and so you start researching, you know, all of these things, and then where else did you go, and how did you get involved in wanting to pursue a more scientific approach to collecting information?
Well, over the what we did is over the during the pandemic, for a 2-year period, when things were shutting down, we took some time off from work, and we decided to engage in a project. We wanted to build an RV from scratch. So what it ended up being is, by the time we were done 2 years later, it turned out to be an RV and a mobile laboratory.
Kind of morphed into a laboratory.
It morphed out.
You know, but it's you know, we were both, you know, of course, life takes over. You go your own directions and that sort of thing, and you know, and you know, he was involved in the military and I was in the commercial sector, but you know, you start to hear about, you know, like, you know, the Pentagon report in 2017 and that sort of thing, and it kind of regains, you know, you regain that interest again, you know, the same interest you had as a kid, and it becomes much more of a thrill, because it's much it's accepted. It's not something that, you know, that you know, it's still, you know, in the shadows, and it's there's a lot of secrecy behind it. Things are opening up quite a bit. Yeah. And, you know, of course, as time goes on, we're hearing much more of the way of disclosure. You know, a lot more stuff is being put out there. And, you know, now it's a point of fascination. You know, it's like, you know, we can't wait to get this thing, you know, get it on the road and just kind of really move along with it, you know.
It's funny. The original goal of it was we were interested in electrosmog, you know, measuring 5G radiation exposures, that kind of thing.
Yeah, electromagnetic radiation in the environment.
Yeah.
That's been a bit of an issue these days too. With cancer agents and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's that kind of branch. So we were also
as a
interested
study.
in violent weather phenomenon, tornadoes and hurricanes, and we interested in creating new safety data for it. And the other thing we're interested in is ball lightning. There's a new something new that was discovered within the last probably 10 years. Something called dark lightning, where 1 in 100 lightning strikes actually produces a burst of gamma rays.
Gamma rays, yeah.
So we were interested in those kinds of phenomena, those anomalous phenomena.
Yeah. Then we hooked up with Avi Loeb.
Yeah, we heard about Avi Loeb on a media interview after the release of the ODNI report from the Pentagon in August. I think it was June 25th, and we reached out to Avi after he formed the Galileo project. Originally, he was looking at interstellar objects, and then after the Pentagon report was released, Avi became very interested in UAPs. And then we liked his attitude that he didn't really care what his colleagues thought. He just wanted to apply science to it. So we found it interesting, and we liked his maverick attitude.
Yeah, definitely.
So we reached out to him, and he was interested in we had finished the RV at the time, the lab, and he was interested in we showed
the instrumentation,
and the applications of it. So we formed a Zoom meeting with him and his scientists and engineers, and from that point, Avi invited us into the Galileo project, and we've been assisting his instrumentation team and his researchers in developing a observation tracking system to collect data on UAPs.
Yeah, which should be up and running in August.
Yeah,
and it's going to be on top of the Harvard University roof. So that's the start of it. Hopefully that it kind of disseminates down to where it's in mobile vehicles, and he's got this thing across the country moving along for this research.
But we formed a plan with Avi where we would take 2 tracks. He would have a fixed system on top of the Harvard rooftop with their tracking system, and we would take a mobile lab out on Long Island around the coastal areas and scan out towards the ocean and all the waterways and see if we can gather some data that way.
Yeah, and then work out from there as far as
and collaborate, see what we get.
Kind of spread it out down the East Coast and so forth. But like I said, things are really starting to take off now, and
That is amazing.
It really is. It's like I said, you're hearing so much. Another 1,500-page document was released. From the Pentagon, and and it's we heard today, of course, some more positive news about
feedback,
that. Which is some of it. I guess we can't talk about yet, but there's a lot of there's a push to get this stuff out there.
Yeah, it looks like it's a strong push to get it out.
It's I think it's going to leave some jaws dropping at some point. There's a lot of information, a lot of it. But we've been in contact with some people and doing some interviews, and it's
trying to get create our baseline of data,
collaborate with others that have more of a I would say
first-hand
account in it. So it's interesting. It's interesting.
That must be so fascinating, and just to be
it is. It really
I mean, involved with that, and talk about give us more detail about contacting Avi Loeb and the process of that. What he's like as a person. He sounds absolutely fascinating. I know he's going to be here in Utah in Vernal. There's a UFO conference up near Skinwalker Ranch that he will be at.
Okay.
So
very good.
Yeah. So I'm hoping I'll be able to get up to that. I'm sure they'll be excited, but it'll be fun to meet him.
Avi's he's a character. He's a no nonsense guy, scientist. He likes people to produce, and have a serious scientific attitude. But he's also got a great sense of humor. Yeah, well, he's always joking around.
I mean, he gets people to engage with it as well. He's kind of, he's quite different. His approaches are different, and but like I say, he's no nonsense about it. And,
he's got a maverick attitude. He doesn't really care.
Let's look at this. I don't care. I don't care what the other mainstream scientists are saying. But he says, I'm gonna take my own track. And
like he says, I don't care. He says, I don't look at how many tweets I got. You don't care. He says, I don't care.
Yeah, he says he doesn't do much in social networking.
Yeah.
He says, so he doesn't care how many tweets he gets or how many likes he gets. And what does he say about the intelligent life? He says, he goes, that's why I reach out to out beyond this planet. He says,
no intelligent life down here. He's got a pretty
I
good
think you
sense.
might be onto something, actually.
Yeah, he's a fun guy. He's a very smart guy and a fun guy.
Yeah.
How much fun for you guys? It must just be a riot. And I want to, and I'm trying to pull up, do a screen share, and it's not working on my end. And I apologize because I've got some computer issues, as we all know, over the past little bit. But if you guys can you guys pull up some of your photos on your screen, and we can do a screen
show
share?
some pictures of
Sure.
the night the
Let me
mobile
see.
lab.
With Avi Loeb, let's see if we get with the group.
That would be so cool. And I know down there you should be able to do a screen share, hopefully.
Okay. Yeah, I see. Okay, I see that. If you go to the, all right, I think this is it, Joe.
No. It's one of the folders. Let's see. Nightcrawler Endeavor.
This one.
Yep.
And yes, Sean, we've got special computers here,
Okay, let's
Sean.
go down.
All right. And I'm sorry, just bear with me. I'm not.
No, thank you. I'm sorry.
a computer geek here.
I was really excited. I'm getting better, but I'm telling you, computer issues on my end are never. It's never a dull moment. But you've sent me so many cool photos, and I really want to be able to show people.
Okay, here's one coming up. Let's see.
Let me see if I can. Let me share it. Let's see if we can here. I have to get back to the show.
Let's see.
Okay, there we go.
Let's see.
Okay, I see.
Share. Oh, we're getting there.
Well, that's more than I can
Two
say.
engineers, right?
You guys have got it. I'm thinking I'm an artist. I'm thinking you're going to be better at this than I am. So
Let's see. Share screen. There you go. Okay, let's see. Okay, now we just gotta find that graphic again.
Can you see that, Erica?
no, let's see.
Let's see. Definitely doing something wrong here.
Well, that makes two of us. I'm trying to.
We'll figure it out.
Well, I'm glad that you will, because I'm telling you, it's never a dull moment on my end. And like I said, with all of the great things going on.
Or something.
Yeah, I saw it before. All right, so we got share. All right. Window. Here we go. Okay.
Let's see.
That's it, sure. Okay, you can see that?
Yes. We're adding to the stream. You boys are good.
We figured it out.
Okay.
All right. So this is the mobile laboratory. We call it the Nightcrawler. And John can explain some of the things on it that you see.
Well, obviously in the front here, you can see that there's a little posted sign here that says the Galileo project. We can't leave that out.
Yep.
All right. And I know it's kind of hard to see. Let's see. Can I remove this? Probably not.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Okay. So on the top here, you see some of the instrumentation over here. I don't know if you can see the mouse pointer.
Yep.
Okay, that's the radar. We have a radome antenna there, which is basically it's a radar that'll give us about 42 miles worth of distance. We can see aircraft at almost 25,000 feet.
So it's a Doppler radar.
Yeah, Doppler radar. So we can, basically keep track of see where these things move, their velocity. We could also use it for, of course, watching the weather as well. Storm clouds. Over here in the front, which is a little bit more difficult to see, but there's two antennas. And this is something called a spectrum analyzer. We can look at radio frequencies, if there's some kind of a transmission of electromagnetics, we can look at that, the electric fields, magnetic fields.
This is a very broad range. It actually covers most of the electromagnetic spectrum.
Yeah. So basically what we're trying to do is, when we do go out and we do a research study, we want to look at the whole electromagnetic field. And it, we're talking about, acoustic, we're talking about radio waves, light, we're talking radiation, ionizing radiation. So
we're looking for aberrations in that, or something.
Sure, any changes. On the driver's side, up in here, this is a weather station, which is sitting off the rail off the arm. We have down here these lights down here are pretty unique. They're UV, and I have a patent out on that, Gerry and I. We also have on the back of it, which we're going to have to move forward.
If you see these steps, the steps.
Oh, the steps, yeah.
We designed the steps. They're almost like it's very similar to an aircraft door that opens up.
Let's get back there. Okay. And let's see. Oh, there we go. Now we can see everything here. All right. So we don't want to hide it.
I bet you get the looks when you're driving that thing around.
Oh my God!
Oh,
yeah.
People stop with their cameras, and we go sit on a like we once the shopping center. We sat on a park bench and just watched the people crowd around to take photographs.
Yeah, they're taking selfies with it, and I haven't seen any on YouTube yet, but I'm waiting for that.
That is hysterical. Yeah. They're probably thinking you guys are the Men in Black.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, what's funny is we took it out camping one time, and we went to a park on Long Island. It's called South Haven Park, and this is where in our area it was a famous UFO case where they claimed a UFO had come down. So the fact that we were there in this vehicle got a lot of stares.
Oh, that's awesome.
This is it. This is it lit up at night with all its lighting.
I hope you can see the slide.
No, we're still seeing the same slide.
Oh, okay. All right. Here we go again. Let's see.
But trust me, I'm just mesmerized with the same slide that we're seeing. So
thanks.
Yeah, let's get back here. And I think we had to reduce this the last time.
Yeah.
And there we go.
Okay, so
let's see. All right.
And I can hear a little bird in the background.
Yes, we're actually in the RV right now. We have the door open.
Oh, that's so cool.
So we're out in nature.
Wow.
Yeah, we were sitting in here watching the radar and looking for any unusual air traffic.
How fun. Yeah. See, that's what a Friday night should be about.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Sometimes we just hang out here and we look for storm systems coming in, or if we find anything unusual, or even the aircraft. We're near an airport, so we can we can also observe the aircrafts coming in too.
Oh, it's got to be so fun. Just watching storms coming in.
That's a fascinating thing too. We see a storm system. We actually see it form and actually fall apart.
Wow.
I think you can see that. Let me see if I can make this bigger.
Got to add you to do another screen share.
Okay. Could you see that?
Oh, no. Another screen share.
Oh, is that what that is? Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Probably have to go back to the. Let's see.
Okay, so I see there. Sorry, screen window, right? Oh, yep. There we go.
Okay.
All right, so let's see if I can put one up there.
I'm sorry, and thank you for being such troopers here.
Oh, no problem. No problem. Hope we're not boring your audience.
No. Are you kidding? My audience has seen things. And they're complete troopers. So
Let's see if I can share this one. Okay. So now I can go. Okay.
Okay.
Can you see that?
yes.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the inside of it. That's facing the back wall. There's a refrigerator. You see the fireplace. For comfort, we have a couch in there and beds that fold down. That the top is an instrument control cluster, and on one side, and you have an instrument panel on the other side, which you with all the instrument monitors and
Yeah, there's a lot of telemetry in there. We got we got 360-degree views around the RV, and of course there's cameras that are sky facing, so we can look up at the sky with magnified views. So there's a lot of integrated cameras in there. Let me just go to another slide here.
This is us taking out for a night drive.
All right, that's it at night. And let's see.
This is an interesting spot. This is a Brookhaven National Laboratory in Long Island. It's a nuclear accelerator ring that's under the ground. They do it. They actually smash atoms here and do a lot of research.
Yeah, this is the collider accelerator, the RIC. This is the larger accelerator.
So we find this interesting. This is a possible spot for us. We might park somewhere around there because based on the historical data, these objects seem to be attracted to nuclear facilities and nuclear power generators. So we figured if we sit somewhere around this area and observe the skies, we might get something interesting.
Yeah, and there's a story about supposedly an object that came down at not too far from the RIC is a park, South Haven Park.
Yeah, that's what we're talking for, the South Haven Park incident.
Yeah. So
they think that was related to the nuclear power facility.
Yeah, this craft that come down supposedly there were vehicles from Brookhaven National Laboratory that recovered it. I'm not quite sure.
Allegedly,
yeah. I'm not quite sure what whether or not that has come to be.
And so here you're hanging out on the border of this facility.
Yeah.
What are you gonna say when they come knocking at the RV door?
that'd be an interesting conversation.
I'm sure it will be. I can't imagine that conversation won't happen.
Let's see. Okay, here's a side view.
Okay, and on the back here, of course, you can see the stairs. These are motorized. The stairs go up. It's actually a split stairwell that
most everything
collapses.
Most everything is automated on this thing.
And on the back, you see there's another type of radar. This is a vertical scanning radar. So we look straight up into the atmosphere. This radar will go almost 60 miles, which is pretty close to the Kármán line. So we can do scan a swath of sky and visualize anything that's passing within a 25-mile radius of the RV.
And this over here is
over here we have this. This is GPS. This is it's not tied into any cell tower or anything like that. This is basically right from the satellite.
And if you notice on this RV, it's got two floors. There's a bottom floor where this door is, where the arrow is, and there's a top floor, or if you go up here, and there's a hatchway that goes up, a circular hatchway that goes up into the top.
Yeah, and
they're both sleeping quarters and the working quarters.
Now, this thing also incorporates, it's got solar panels. It's got like 1,500 watts worth of solar energy. So you could live off the grid without a problem. We have panels on the roof. We have panels on the side here. We also have two generators. We have a 4,000-watt generator down below. There's a 2,000-watt generator inside. Plus, it's got 3 inverters. So we can definitely live off the grid for quite a while.
Yeah.
And so let me ask you, because I think about the TV show, the Skinwalker Ranch TV show, and how they're talking about their specific areas that they can go where all the equipment fails. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Have you ever had that happen?
That's interesting because that's something we're looking into, the electromagnetic effects that with aircraft and cars that were within a close proximity of these objects. And what we did is we incorporated that idea in this design of this mobile lab. It's actually got a Faraday cage. There's a metal mesh that's in between the walls, so it actually will prevent electromagnetic interferences.
Right. Once the door is closed, it's basically a big metal box. So it's if you turn your cell phone on, you're not going to have any signal once that door is closed. What it does is it pretty much blocks you from any electromagnetic effects external, to the RV. So I'm not sure exactly how that would would react in a case of an object that is in close proximity. I don't know.
Well, we're hoping that if we ever get to that kind of incident, we might be able to have our equipment still running.
Right. But I mean, what would you, say if you've got a specific location where, people are experiencing their phones turning off or different things happening? I mean, what would the most common thought be on that without jumping to there's a UFO right next to us?
Well, we have a theory on that. John can explain it about how these systems might be affected. I mean, it's reasonable. It makes it's certainly possible. I'll let John explain electromagnetic effects.
So I mean, the electromagnetic fields that we believe that there are a pulsing field. They're changing polarity. They're whether they're emanating from around the ship in a circular form or they're expanding outward, north and south. These fields are strong enough to basically depolarize motor magnets. They'll shut generators down. They'll even to a point where they'll prevent the normal flow of current through a wire. So basically paralyzing the circuit for a period of time.
Yeah, they'll shut the field will shut lights down.
Yeah.
So I mean, it makes perfect sense that these objects, whatever they are, they're producing a powerful electromagnetic field around them.
So what other things would be affected though? So you've got like cell phones that are acting up. Wouldn't there be other things in the environment that would be experiencing the same types of interference?
Some of the stuff reacts differently. It reacts a little bit differently. But motors, the biggest thing that seemed to be affected is motors, generators, lights, the filaments within the light bulbs themselves, the old incandescent bulbs. They affect how the circuits process energy. If there's any kind of a frequency or a lot of these microprocessor or computer-based equipment in the cell phone have clocks, and it can basically paralyze the clock, which means that the computer just stops dead. It won't process any information. The same thing, even in a battery, where you've got a potential that's strong enough to, interfere with the normal current of a battery, running from positive to negative. There are some telltale signs. There's actually one report that we were looking at recently, which took place in Minnesota, was it?
It was Minnesota in 1979. It was the Val Johnson case, Sheriff Deputy Val Johnson. That was an interesting case. This occurred back in '79 at 1:40 in the morning. He was driving down one of the roads of a rural road, and he noticed a light in the road. And he thought it was an overturned tractor trailer, or it might have been a small plane crash. So he turned down, I believe it was Highway 220. And what he saw it looked like some kind of a circular object sitting in the road. And as he turned to try to approach it, he noticed a light emanating from it, and it sped towards his car. And he says he lost consciousness for about 15 minutes or so. And what happened is his car was in off the side of the road or in a ditch, I think, and there was very interesting damage to his car. The antennas on the back trunk of the car and on top of the roof were bent on 45 or 90 degree angles. and there was damage to the headlight. There was damage to the searchlight on top of the car. He had fractures in the windshield, which were, when we looked at the fractures, it looked like it was indicative of a thermal flashover or a mechanical stress. They're very long linear fractures. They're called radial fractures, which you don't normally get from a typical accident. You know, then there was also debris of like 4 concentric fractures in the windshield, and it was of course the dent and hood. So it looked like a debris field. It looked like he went to a debris field, and something with a strong electromagnetic force had bent the antennas on that angle. Something that probably rode over the car, which is consistent with the story he told. The other things he had burns to his eyes, both his eyes. He went to an emergency room, and I think the physician had said he looked like a welder's burns. Yeah. He also had fractured his teeth. I'm not sure how that happened. It may have hit the dashboard or something. But his clock and his watch had both stopped at the same time. It was like 14 minutes slower, or stopped at the same 14-minute period.
And again, you got a clock in the car. Those were older analog type clocks where they had motors in them.
Right.
Small motors that would basically paralyzed at that point.
Yeah, they would.
There's once those motors are depolarized, they're demagnetized.
It's a degaussing process.
They won't run again. They just stop permanently.
Yeah, so it's all consistent. When we looked at it, it was very consistent with what he was talking about, and it was consistent with something that generated a very powerful electromagnetic field around it.
Eric, I don't know if you're still looking at that slide.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so I can keep going forward with this.
Yeah.
What's interesting is here we have the RV with us working with some of the equipment. Shows John inside working with spectrum analyzer.
Yeah, that's here.
I'm down here working with some of our electro-optical equipment.
Mm-hmm. And here's some more camera equipment.
Cameras.
And these cameras they're called super zooms. They're capable of 125 times optical zoom. They're 3,000 millimeter lenses.
Wow.
So, I mean, I've been able, believe it or not, I've been able to see the rings of Saturn.
Yeah, these are as strong as a telescope.
With this camera.
So cool.
It really is. It's just wild.
And of course, on the top here we have we include a picture of some of the objects that the pilots were taking with their cell phones to the cockpit.
Oh yeah, they're kind of small, but
they're kind of small, but
Oh, wow.
And this is some of the detail on the outside of the RV.
So
okay,
That is incredible.
This is us going out to lunch to a diner. We parked. We tried to find a parking spot for it,
just to get some attention.
Okay, and this is our plan of going out. What we want to do is these are the spots we want to go into on Long Island.
Yeah. So this is where we're positioned and where we live. It's in the Holbrook area.
And this is
Suffolk County.
Okay, this is Brookhaven National Laboratory. What we were talking about.
Very close to the lab.
And this is our radar. What we see around the outside is our radar, the radar scan. How much area we would sweep.
Wow.
So we want to try that area. Then there's this area over here is at the end of Long Island, at the South Fork of Long Island. There's a place called Camp Hero. And I don't know if you remember the stories of the Montauk Project.
Yes, in fact, let's go into that for
okay.
a moment, because that's a fascinating story for many reasons.
So that's out at the tip of Montauk, right?
So we want to try that area, of course, for obvious reasons.
I bet.
And of course, then it's this area called Sunken Meadow State Park, and this sweep would be over the Long Island Sound, and this is where some objects were sighted. And then, of course, down here is the southern end of Long Island. And we want to sweep this area along the Atlantic Ocean corridor, because this is where a lot of the fighter pilots were seeing the objects. They were going from west to east. They were going out towards the ocean and out to the water. So we're hoping maybe we can get something out here.
Yeah, so that's everything's on the shoreline pretty much, So,
and of course, this is a advertisement. We were trying to run a GoFundMe page, and that's not doing too well.
Yeah. Okay. And in here again is this is one of the cameras. You could see the lens on this thing this is 3,000 millimeters. So this is quite a lens. But it's I'll tell you something. It's quite a telescope.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
There's another view of it, and I believe that's me.
Yeah.
This is a night view.
Yeah. This is one of the naval
Navy
FLIR videos.
FLIR videos, right?
Okay, and this is John on the inside testing the spectrum analyzers. And what he's seen is he's got a large monitor overhead, and it can watch the wide broadband frequency range, frequency sweep.
There's quite a bit of telemetry in here. You're looking at there's one monitor here that pretty much monitors. We have an acquisition software that looks at every piece of sensor data that we have around the RV. Down below, there's a radar. There's another monitor over here from the back. There's a secondary radar here. And of course, other things here. We got some spectrum analyzers. I mean, there's a lot of equipment in there. In such a small space.
That is incredible. And so when you're looking at a spectrum analyzer, like describe for some of us who we're not up to things like both of you
sure.
are. But describe what that does and what you're looking for specifically.
Yeah, explain what you're looking for.
Yeah, so there's different types of they call there's spectrum data. So up here we might be looking at the RF frequency spectrum. So anything that's broadcast, radio stations, some kind of shortwave communication. It could be microwave, radio wave. It could be any kind of communication at all. We'll be able to see it along this this span of screen. We're looking at time. We can actually look at a particular frequency, see what's occurring at what the amplitude is, how far it is from the lab. We can triangulate if it's something coming from in the sky somewhere, particular direction. We have different ways to visualize it. There's a screen here. This is called a waterfall, and basically all you're looking at is changes in color. So for frequency changes, you'll see that right away. And it's easy to visualize it this way rather than looking at these little peaks of current and voltage. Same down here. This is another display, and what this does is this might be for an electromagnetic field. If we're looking, if we want to analyze a lightning, for instance, we want to know what the frequency is. We want to know the intensity, what they call electron volts. We'll look at this, and this will give us the intensity of the lightning. So we'll know exactly, possibly if it's a storm that's coming our way, what the frequencies might be. And this is more or less, for research purposes, if we're going to look at it that way. We could also look at a magnetic field if we're looking at something that, does produce a magnetic field, possibly these UAPs. That's something that we're going to want to look at. Again, this is all directional equipment. So on the outside, we just aim the antennas in the direction of where the stuff is, where we're seeing it, and most of the time it becomes a detection from radar. Yeah. And the radar gives us our coordinates, where to look.
Radar would be the first detector. So if we see something on radar, we'll aim the equipment at that direction and we'll see what we get.
Yeah, and this is all recorded too. All this data is recorded and downloaded.
The nice thing about this is it's very automated. So we can actually do a 24-hour survey and actually go to take a nap, go to sleep, and set the alarms. The alarms will go off when something is tracked.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so tell us, like, what are some things that you've tracked? When have the alarms gone off?
We've basically set it up. Right now we're doing a calibration setup.
Yeah, we're actually near an airport, so we're doing tests near an airport. But we have picked up some anomalies in the sky, and John could probably tell you about those.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some unusual stuff that objects that appear in one spot at one point, and with the very next scan they seem to disappear. Or we'll see an object that will be moving at a certain velocity and all of a sudden stop, make a right-hand turn, and disappear off the screen. So
it's not typical.
some not, very
Not
very
expected air
unusual,
traffic.
not typical,
Of air
and
traffic, yeah.
of air traffic that that we question, and that's the kind of stuff that we're looking for. We want to record. We have cataloged so many different planes and helicopters and airliners and so forth that
Yeah, so we want to do is set up a baseline. We'll know if we have all IFOs, the things we can identify, then we can compare anything that doesn't fit to that group as anomalies.
Yeah. So, and here's another view of it. Without me there, I must have taken a break.
We took a nap or something.
Yeah. So you could see, we have a computer here that's, they're basically, this is all, Wi-Fi communications between the monitors and the downlinks for the data collection. We got, of course, another monitor up here.
And so let me just ask you, because I've got some great questions or comments from people in chat. And so Amy wants to know, supposedly they emit in between the infrared and radio frequencies several hundred gigahertz to terahertz range. Do you have reception in this band?
That's something that's it's beyond the scope of this equipment. I mean, it's we're calibrated up to about 6 gigahertz. It's something like that. I mean, frequencies that high, we'll probably pick up something called harmonics from it. So what happens is when you have amplitudes at much higher frequencies, they tend to produce smaller signals at lower frequencies. So if there is something out there, we'll pick it up on a lower frequency carrier. That is, something that is indicative of something that might be occurring at a much higher frequency. Because what we'll see something that looks like a staircase. The signals will get smaller and smaller in amplitude as you go down in frequency.
It'll be like an indirect way to measure that same high,
sure,
it's a high frequency range.
Yeah. Now I'm not sure, what kind of equipment, other than military equipment that can actually measure that.
It'll probably be just military.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if they can even measure that high. To be honest,
that's
I mean, most of the stuff nowadays, the commercial grade analyzers will only go up to like 60 gigahertz. So that's something that's obviously it's kind of beyond the scope of what we have. I'm not quite sure where those frequencies are being measured. Whether I mean if they are being detected, it's at the military level.
Okay.
Okay, this is an interesting piece of equipment. This is what we call a HUD. The military has something similar. It's called a head-up gear or head-up display. They wear it in the cockpit, but we decided to take that same idea and build a harness and put our camera equipment on top of a helmet. And it's on a halo. The camera sits on a halo, so we call the halo head-up gear, head-up display.
Yeah. Now this is basically the same camera that you saw before, the same type of camera. This is a P1000, which is a 3,000 millimeter lens. So, again, this is something that you quite easily see the surface of the moon, or if on some pretty clear nights, you could definitely see the rings of Saturn.
Well, what's interesting is when you put this piece of equipment on, this harness. I'll see here. These are shoulder harness, the shoulder braces, and these are handles in the front. So this will sit on your shoulder because it's got some weight.
Wow.
And what's funny is you wear we have a virtual reality goggles that you put on so you can walk around. And here's the virtual reality goggles. So you can actually walk around and see the sky through the virtual reality goggles, which will give you a better image. And the sun doesn't hurt your eyes, and so it's a much better way to visualize.
You guys are the biggest nerds. I love you.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is the best.
Well, it'll definitely scare somebody.
Somebody needs to be hiding behind you guys when you're out there with this equipment. This is
it's funny.
priceless.
We were walking around with this equipment around the neighborhood, so people
got some strange looks.
Some people laughing.
But if they only knew how cool you guys were, so that's oh my gosh, that is so awesome.
You look at this thing over here and you wonder if this person's a cyclops.
I have to say the least. I mean, that is That is so. How heavy is that? That's got to be pretty heavy.
It's I guess it's a bit too probably around 20 pounds, right?
Yeah, 15,
Wow.
20
Yeah,
pounds.
yeah,
Yeah, that's why we need the shoulder harness.
yeah. You definitely got to have
Yeah.
that. There's another view of it.
Wow, that is so cool.
Yeah,
And you can see the virtual reality glasses down, the goggles down there. So it makes it convenient. You just walk around, keep your head still. You don't really have to look up at the sky. You just catch it on there.
yeah. And what's good about that too is that you don't have that night blindness.
Right. It's
looking from lights to
and this
the
camera
dark
has
sky.
also night vision, has IR night vision, so you can see at night also with it.
You just you gotta watch where you're walking.
Yeah, you'll see the sky very well, but not in front of you. Okay.
There's the portal, the hatch.
Yep, this is the hatchway that goes from the first floor up into the second floor, which we call a bridge, the overhang, and that's a monitor area and a bedroom area.
So when your brother goes up there, close the hatch.
No, we actually switch. That's on where we feel like sleeping that night.
Yeah, you're in the cellar tonight.
Wow.
Okay, and this is the hatchway closed.
Which one of you was closing the hatch?
It would have to be it could be either one, but the guy in the bottom can lock it. There's a lock and key here.
Not to be disturbed.
Just so you have some privacy. But it's funny. We got this idea from the old sci-fi series, like Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. So it's fashioned after like a submarine hatch.
Yes, it is. Wow.
Yeah.
How fascinating that you have. I mean, every square inch of that has been methodically laid out.
Yeah.
It was almost 2 years in the making.
It was 2 years. It was a work in progress. We were making drawings and changing them on the fly while we were designing this, and we're just coming up with different ideas and trying to make it more creative. And it was also very functional.
Yeah, except for it was 6 months worth of downtime when I had COVID pneumonia.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I was hospitalized for a while.
Oh my gosh!
Oh yeah, it was nasty.
I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah, me too.
Wow.
And this is one of the
objects that one of the pilots, one of the FA-18 Super Hornet pilots took with a cell phone camera.
Yeah.
And it's a very interesting object. It looks like it's on an angle here. It's probably a tic-tac shape, oblong.
Yeah.
There's some structures that are coming off it.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting. Some
which is interesting.
Antenna structure of some sort.
Yeah.
And so he was in the aircraft, and he took this photo with his cell phone.
Yeah, he took it with his cell phone. Right to the window.
So what that I would imagine that would have to go through some sort of protocol. You can't just be releasing things that you're taking.
This all had to be declassified. First, the videos were declassified. Then some of these photos were coming out, and they declassified these. And I think it was Jeremy Corbell who pushed Corbell who pushed some of the release of this, and I think it was George Knapp too.
Yeah.
Well, two people that I couldn't think lower of, but that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know them personally. It's just from them on TV. Actually, George Knapp, we were supposed to have an interview with, and he never really returned our call.
You know what? That's okay. Be glad, because you guys are actually doing good work. So
Thank you.
Let's see. Okay.
Oh, here's some more of the pictures. All right. So here's that Tic Tac, and this is something else that one of the pilots took. It's looks like a saucer shaped, disc shape that's flying on a vertical position here.
Yeah, with some kind of something in the center there. I'm not sure.
Something, and it may be some segmented or raised section here. We're not sure. This is another object. It's got a very unusual shape. Almost, it could be like it's a triangular shape, but it looks like it's also flying in a vertical configuration or orientation.
Mm-hmm.
And this was put out there by Corbell and Knapp.
Yes.
Yeah, and there was I think it was some other. I think some of the other pilots had mentioned it. This picture, so they confirmed it.
That's unfortunate. Yeah, and again, it's like it is really interesting. I think for me, because of the background I've had looking at, Knapp and the leaks and the Jeremy Corbell videos that have been, kind of debunked. I mean, who in the world would give Jeremy Corbell, some of this important information? I would hope that wouldn't be the ambassador to the
Well, you know what's interesting when he got some of the videos released. I mean, the ones that we're showing, and some of the ones that you see the gimbal and the Tic Tac. I mean, those all been confirmed. They've been all declassified and confirmed, and they've been confirmed by Lou Elizondo and Christopher Mellon.
Interesting.
So, yeah, that's a.
So,
I would love to just throw this out there. I would love to have any of them on my show. That would be really good.
That would actually be very interesting.
I'm sure they wouldn't do it, but I think it would be very interesting.
It's all yeah. All right, so this is interesting. This is a document that was just released by the DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, and it was this is recently. I think they submitted a FOIA document a couple of years back, or a few years back, and then they finally released it. It's a 1,574 page report on. And you can see the title. It's on the biological effects on people and living things, which is it's interesting.
Yeah, there's quite a few different scenarios in there too. I mean,
It talks about radiation burns and
right down to pregnancies, right?
Yeah. Well, they bring that up there as an anomaly. Every paranormal claim, even the abductions, they bring in there because they were actually looking at it. Looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And that was specifically Dr. Christopher Kit Green.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Let's see. All right, this is the logo for.
I like that.
Thank you. This is an organization we created on Facebook. It was to inspire the public to get interested in the subject and making inquiries and. Just to share stories,
share information.
Sure. Yeah, share information. Yeah. We also brought in scientists, and so it's got laymen
authors,
and laymen and scientists.
Quite a few different people. Specialists.
I like that. That's a great photo.
Yeah, you got the dogs. Was it the sun dog?
The sun dog. Yeah.
That's so cool. Well, and I think it's okay. I will be quiet so you can explain.
Oh, go ahead. You can go back ahead.
No. I mean, I think it's so much fun, like I said, to watch how much work you've put into this, how much money you've put into this, because what you've done cannot be cheap by any. I mean, that's pretty hardcore equipment.
No.
And do you think you can ever recoup the investment that you've made?
I don't think so. It's
well, we tried the GoFundMe approach. I think it brought in about $275.
And that's the thing that is so crazy. You've got other radio shows or YouTube shows that when I just sit back and I watch people donating $50, $100, and I mean it's like they're talking about absolute garbage, and then you've got people like yourself who are doing, I mean, really some incredible work with all of this instrumentation and things, and it's like why aren't people funding that instead of funding some of these things that are just ridiculous? But
yeah, we didn't want to go the route of like ghost hunters or anything like that. We wanted to actually have hard science, to back it up.
Yeah, and it's not going to. I mean, that stuff like that won't deter us in any way. We're still pushing ahead. It's improving the equipment and so on, and just hopefully, with all this that we put into it, that we're going to get something out of it. Find some kind of
at least a satisfaction knowing something. Yeah.
This is
incredible. Okay, go ahead. No, you go ahead. Nope. It's your turn.
Okay, this is another camera array. We call it a nest array because it's 3 pieces of equipment, and I'll let John explain it.
Yeah. So you basically got 3 cameras here. You have the main camera. This is a telephoto. This is a spotter camera. So you have 2 cameras that are set on 2 different optical zooms. So one gives you a wide field. So if you're looking at the sky, you'll be able to see the object and what's going on around it. Next to it is the telephoto. This is where we actually want to see the object itself.
Yeah, it is like a narrow field of view.
Yeah, very narrow field. So we get the detail of the object, maybe possibly try to identify it. And of course, this is, with this type of lens system, we can get a lot of detail.
Actually, we've used this to look at the moon. We've actually we zoom in on the craters on the moon. We can see quite a bit of detail. Some of the mountains on the moon.
Right. Just telling before that, you can actually see the rings of Saturn when it's set up properly. Next to this camera is something on the side here, which is the thermal camera, and that was seeing, of course, heat signatures. So we're looking at the same object. We got a wide field view, we got a telephoto field view, a narrow field view, and we got a thermal view. And we also have other equipment that's also aimed at the same point. There's spectrum analyzers that's looking at the magnetic fields, the electric fields. We have a Geiger counter that's directional. So we're trying to get a lot of data from the same object.
Right. So it's all corroborating the same piece of evidence.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, this goes with the other report that was released, with 1,574-page report. There's some of the symptoms, and it's all hard to see. Hard
to read it.
But there's a whole list of symptoms that people have reported having, up close, in the proximity of some of these objects.
Yeah, this is something that, definitely look at,
Okay, some more of them.
Yep.
And this was released from the report.
Yeah, this was recently released from the DIA. I think it came out within the last month, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is inside the RV. This is our couch.
Whoa.
This is right across from the monitor that John was looking at the spectrum analyzer. So we can actually sit and just look at the stuff. And of course, there's a stairway that goes up to the bridge area or to the overhang where there's a bed and there's a monitor, and there's also the hatchway to go down to the first floor.
Dang. So do your spouses go out there with you?
Yes.
Yeah, occasionally, yeah.
That's so cute.
They haven't gone in overnight.
No, nothing.
They're not crazy about camping.
You're doing a study.
They're doing a study. Yeah,
so they just say, "Oh, the brothers, they're
Yeah.
going out again." Let them do their
they don't
thing.
want to be bored. Let's see. Okay, this is all part of that same report. This lists what they call AN classifications. That's to do with the anomalous behavior of sightings and witnesses report. This is all part of that report. And this is also part of the report. It has different classification systems.
Wow.
Everything from Dr. Hynek's close encounters to 1 to 5, 1 to 3 when he was alive. Then they have flyby ratings of the effects on pilots and speed and what they see. And let's see, the MA ratings, that's something different. Just nocturnal and anomalous nocturnal and daylight disk effects and tracking.
I don't know what that is.
Well, something. This was interesting. We were thinking about how else these things might be possible, how a universe might be actually structured. And one idea is that the geometry of the universe is very complex. It's maybe the space-time geometry is very complex. And what we're seeing is what's called a 4D tesseract. This is a box that's bored up into the fourth dimension. So it shows you how many more sides you would have in a higher dimensional space. So you can see it gets very confusing and complicated. And this, there's a theory, probably more than a theory, a mathematical theory that there are a lot more dimensions than our third dimension that we live in.
That's comforting.
Yeah. So if these things might occupy higher spatial dimensions. So it might be a lot of it we don't see.
Chances are they do.
Yeah. So that's something to consider.
And let me just ask you, because I've got a great question from Amy again. So is the wiring, including under the van's native wiring, RF shielded to Tempest levels?
Oh, like a military Tempest system? Yes, it's pretty close.
Okay. And explain to us a little bit about what that means specifically.
Well, Tempest units I worked on computers that were Tempest systems. They're very rugged. They're made to they have a lot of EMI protections. You can drop them. You can throw them outside of a car going 50 miles per hour without with protecting the inside electronics. They're just very rugged systems. They're protected from either impacts or EMI, and in military they call Tempest systems.
Thank you.
I'm not quite sure, where that word. I'm sure there's a standard listing as far as.
Yeah, I mean, I worked in the military. That was just one of the things worked on. Now, what we're seeing is this is also that space time geometry we were talking about, and what we're showing is this triangle. This is supposed to represent a basic, let's say it was a 4D object, something that has 4 dimensions. These slices would be what we would be able to see if this thing had passed through, let's say, our 3D space time dimension. You would get slices, depending on the angle of this cone. You would get these slices, and it shows that of course the geometry: circle, ellipse, parabola, or hyperbola. This is all you would see. We wouldn't see the full cone.
Yeah, you see aspects of it.
Yeah, I mean the geometry would be a lot more complex than a cone, but it's just a symbolism to show what that we don't have the sensory apparatus to see anything higher than 3 dimensions. Okay, and this is a description of it, how it works. This shows our 3-dimensional space, which we live in. And if you look at anything in your house, let's say you looked at a piece of furniture, you'd only see length, depth, and height. You only see 3 sides of everything. That's just the way things work in 3-dimensional space. This is showing the cone. In this case, it's supposed to represent a 4-dimensional object that's rotating within a 3-dimensional plane, and it's showing slices. We would only see these slices in 3 dimension in our 3-dimensional plane. So we were trying to correlate this with some of the objects seen, like the different shapes, that maybe they're slices of something that occupies a higher spatial dimension. So that's the idea behind this. So we were playing with the idea.
How fascinating. And so I've got to ask you, because I'm, like my mind is, on the Galileo project and things. And so how often are you guys having your team meetings?
This is a couple times a week. It's like Mondays or Fridays, sometimes more often.
And then describe what typically happens during those meetings.
Well, we have an instrumentation meeting where all the engineers and scientists meet on developing the equipment. Then there's a meeting on everything that deals with everything on the information come out in UAPs. It's almost like a brainstorming session or a thing, or more like a think tank.
Yeah, including philosophy.
You talk about everything, and of course all the experts are there. And we have because we have defense people like Lou Elizondo and Christopher Mellon there. We now have Dr. Jacques Voulet, who's part of it. Dr. Gary Nolan. I'm trying to think also Nick Pope from, of course, his stuff from England.
Well, and I mean, I will say that there have been, with the addition of some of the people that have been brought on board, there have been red flags that have been raised in the research community about why in the world some of these people would be brought on and what specifically their expertise would be. I mean, I think, Nick Pope has put forward some pretty questionable things. Specifically, birds are alien drones here to monitor the environment and things like that. And so what is the caliber of accepting somebody into the Galileo project, and why, when they've got 2 people who are as brilliant as both of you, why would they bring on somebody like Nick Pope?
Well, Avi's idea was he wanted to bring in all perspectives, not just the ones that, not just necessarily analytical people, but more. He wanted to have all kinds of perspectives, even skeptics. Like we have Dr. Michael Shermer in there,
Right.
And so he wants to hear all sides, all perspectives. As part of the think tank, as part of the brainstorming.
Yeah, pretty well balanced.
Yeah, so he wanted the balance. He basically wanted the Galileo project to be balanced, even if the person's let's say a theologian or something.
And so, my question would be, because there are a lot of really amazing names on this list, and then there are a couple people that I think we all question, but why in the world wouldn't they include people that are the world's foremost historians on the topic? And that has been I mean, I just kind of perplexing to me. It's like you've got somebody like Barry Greenwood, who is, the world's most important archivist. You've got somebody like, I mean, Jan Aldrich, Project 1947. You've got people who've
Yeah.
made really significant contributions to the subject, and yet none of those people are brought on board. It just seems to be the usual um, kind of suspects. And why do you think? I mean, think that would be?
Well, in this case, I think was when Avi Loeb started it. These people have never really looked at the UFO phenomenon before. Like I don't think even Avi Loeb had a real good grasp on the history of it. So he's been slowly learning about who's out there, what's out there. I had recommended to him some people like Jacques Vallée, and after I had told stories about Jacques Vallée and his background, I saw that Avi had brought him in as one of the principal scientists. And also Gary Nolan on the cutting edge. But I think it's a learning experience for Avi too. And I think
bet.
Yeah. So he's still learning about the phenomena. It's like us, we've kept up with it since we were kids. So, to us, most of these names are familiar.
Well, it's becoming a little more a little more accepting of retrospective data.
Yeah, they're
and stuff
starting
like
to
that,
change.
too.
It's starting to change. We see a tide of change, and you
Yeah.
start to invite other different kinds of people in here.
Right. So I think that's it. That's it.
And that's, I mean, I think that's good. I look at, again, I'm just looking at the website here, and you see some of the people that are involved in all of this, and they're really even people I've never heard of, but that are actually incredibly brilliant people, and I would imagine could make some pretty significant changes. And then you've got some of the people that, again, I would just be like, what, why? I mean, because to me, to add somebody, some of these names would be a detriment to a project unless you're
Mhm.
trying to play along with the same cast of characters, and I can't imagine that he would want to do that at all. And then also, I want to just mention Eric Weinstein is on there, who is, in my opinion, very troubling, and troubling to have him involved with any project, because that means Peter Thiel is involved behind the scenes, and I don't, that is a red I mean, I'm just
Yeah, I
saying
don't
this
know.
out loud.
Yeah, I didn't know too much about the history of Eric Weinstein. All I know is his background is that he was a mathematical physicist. I think that's his primary role. I'm not sure about his history. I'm not sure what Avi knows about his history. To be honest with you.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. It's fascinating, and I think all of us get, we come into this and we're getting involved, and we see some of these names who've been figures in the subject for so many decades, and there's a lot to be learned from all of this, and it'll be interesting to see where things go, because to me, like I said, what both of you are doing is where things should be. That's where we should be focusing. We should be getting out there and doing field research and collecting data. And I want to ask both of you, so when you've got a perfect project, when you are actually engaged in a scientific endeavor, what does that look like? Where does peer review come into play? Where is transparency in all of this?
That's something that's actually just really coming together now.
Yeah.
With the right people, hopefully with some of this, the scientists and so forth, with the Galileo project, the sharing of information. We certainly want to present it properly.
And they're still formulating the methodologies. And we've got a pretty good handle on the methodologies
right.
now.
And we're assisting them with that as well.
Yeah.
To change up some things, and make it more palatable for research.
Right, we came in with an
research that we're
applications
doing.
background. We're application specialists, so that's our offer to the Galileo project. So Avi's been very receptive to it, and they've been taking that trail, and hopefully when all these methodologies get fully solidified, and we take these two tracks, then we'll discuss how it's going to be peer reviewed, and of course they want transparency, but I think with academia they want they're not that open to the media right away. They're more interested in getting going over all the data first before releasing things. Which we're open to other things.
Yeah. I mean, you certainly don't want some lengthy process in place too.
Yeah, we also don't want to lose the public interest. So
I mean, what we've thought about is too is more or less is an interactive approach, with sometimes with live streams, during a research project.
I mean, I think Avi's been doing that with the media. He's been giving
Yeah.
live appearances and things like that, talking about it. Yeah.
But that's something that we're thinking about too. Is that we would have a live stream go out on a particular job, and folks can
Oh,
see
yeah, that we would like to do. Yeah.
how we go about processing the data, gathering the data. that
Yeah,
sort
actually,
of
we gotta
thing.
try to run a live
Yeah.
stream as we're doing it. Actually,
That
going
would be
up.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, actually, that's something we'd like to do.
yeah, absolutely.
And so, since you're involved with the Galileo project, I mean, have you signed anything that would prohibit you from doing that? And is there, because you get involved in projects and you've got to sign NDAs, and your information is going to this person or this project, and then you don't have as much control of that information. Is that, I mean, is
You
that
know, what's interesting is Avi didn't want any NDAs involved. In fact, we had mentioned it. We had mentioned limited NDAs just to protect intellectual properties. Not that not about transparency, but intellectual properties.
right?
But Avi's against all NDAs. He wants everything out in the open and shared, and nobody one person take full credit, and everybody takes credit. That kind of attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
And so, are you sharing all of your, I mean, you mentioned that you've got a patent, and different things.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean,
We're
how,
not, we're not sharing we're not really sharing the patents. That's not being shared. We're helping with their development. They're taking some of the stuff in a different direction, not exactly the same direction we're taking it. So it's going to be two different approaches.
Yeah. And then there are times that we help steer that direction too.
And we've helped steer it because we want Avi to succeed.
Yeah, we don't want it to go too far to the
besides us
right or too
succeeding.
far to the left. Wait a minute. Let's
What a happy
set the
meeting.
center of the road.
Happy meeting.
so how many people, when you're doing your meetings, your biweekly meetings, how many people are usually in attendance?
Well, today we had quite a few. We had 37.
37.
Wow.
Sometimes it's all higher than that, 40, 50.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought 37 was high.
Yeah. There was a couple of meetings for 40 something, 50
Wow.
something people. Yeah. I think altogether it's between 70, about 100 scientists altogether, 100 researchers.
Wow. So is Jacques Vallée typically there?
He was, something, he was there for a couple of meetings. I don't know if it's because he's got other obligations, but it's on a voluntary basis to show up at the meetings. Of course you can get transcripts, or you can get video replays of the meeting, and you can interact that way. And they also have different software accounts and it's social accounts you can get on.
And so is the Galileo project linked in any way with SCU?
No. Yeah, that's the Scientific Coalition of UAP Studies.
Mhm.
There are, I think there are a couple of people that are members. They're research affiliates. I haven't seen any of them participate though, as far as the meetings go.
Mm-hmm.
But that's something that obviously opens the door for anybody who wants to participate. That skills that he could use. But I haven't really seen anybody from actually participate from SCU.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. And what about AIAA?
No, I don't.
No,
I haven't seen anybody
nobody
from
like
there.
No.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I mean, it's it's such a, like I'm saying, there's so many names in here when I look at this to see which, I mean, a lot of, you would, pretty incredible people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so at the end of the day, what will happen with all of this, where, I'm going to look at the project goal to examine the possibility of extraterrestrial origin for
Mhm.
identified aerial phenomena by making observations of objects in near Earth's atmosphere, filtering out identifiable objects using AI and
Mhm.
algorithms. And so how does that happen specifically? Are you in on any of that? Like, I mean, how are you filtering out objects that could potentially be identifiable, or could potentially be a threat to national security because they're different technologies from other countries?
That's an interesting. That's an interesting question.
That has to do with long last satellite data and so forth that they're working with. It's I'm not quite sure.
I'm not sure that I'm
where
not
that
sure it's
stands
clear.
right now.
I'm not sure
Yeah.
it's clear.
It's
Where the. I mean,
it's opening up pathways. I guess sensitive,
Right.
government pathways.
yeah, I think that was part of a discussion at one time. They were trying to come up with a plan of action for that.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm
on
not
how
sure.
on how to deal with that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's more or less right now. It's just in a pause.
It's still being discussed.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be just absolutely fascinating. And yeah, and again, I'm just looking at Shostak is there.
Those stack is veteran members. Yes,
That's right.
So yeah, Paul Davies. Yeah, this is fascinating. I would definitely recommend people who are out there to get in, to go to the website and look at the Galileo project and the goals and activities, and the fact that they are a research group that are aimed to identify the natures of UAP
Mhm.
and interstellar objects using the scientific method based on a transparent analysis of open scientific data to be collected using optimized instruments. And so this is really interesting. And so like search for potential ETC satellites. So do you know much about that?
Yeah. What Avi's idea is the fact that the human race has, as we advance in technology, we send satellites out. We send unmanned space probes out to explore the solar system. So his idea is that there must be other advanced civilizations on other planets sending out probes or satellites. So his idea is with some of these interstellar objects he's looking for is maybe almost like a form of what he called astroarchaeology, is looking for evidence of other civilizations by their equipment that might be floating around the solar system. So let's say if it was a solar system that planet that was civilization that began maybe a million years ahead of us, they probably would have explored far outside their own solar system. So that's his idea that we should be looking for these artifacts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And so
flying out there and trying to land a craft on it, to collect some kind of data too.
Well, he says anything that might like the Oumuamua object that he's been actually battling with his colleagues. He thinks it might be an interstellar form of technology, and of course the other theory is that it's just a space rock or some piece of ice or something.
Mm-hmm.
But it's got some interesting anomalies, and so that's what Avi wants to look at. Anything from outside our solar system that might have interesting characteristics, might indicate a technological civilization. So he has two branches. It's basically the interstellar branch. He says ISO branch, and then there's another branch, the UAP branch, which is what the objects in the skies are on Earth. Yeah.
Wow. And so you mentioned that they were kind of, when you have these conversations or think tanks, I mean, they're talking about religion and different things. And so how does that play into that? Because I know in the UFO world, I mean, you have a lot of people that are promoting specific, thoughts about, interjecting their religious beliefs. And so how is that, how is that playing out? And is that a helpful discussion to have when you're simply trying to collect scientific data?
Well, I'll tell you.
Well, we haven't seen anybody. None of the members. We haven't seen members that have kind of a very religious point of view. At least it wasn't expressed.
Yeah. Well, there are times that it's a spirited debate.
There's spirited debates. Yeah, absolutely. Because get different personalities and different belief systems. So it's some of the debates that get.
Some of that stuff I kind of stay away from.
It's interesting to watch, though. It's fun.
It is
fun to watch. Yeah.
No, I'm sure I would love to be a fly on the wall. I'm sure it is absolutely fascinating to have all of these bright minds that have probably very large egos, coming into play. Wow.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm sure. And I mean, how many people are doing specifically what you two are doing?
I think we're it.
we're at doing with the mobile lab and all that. We're at Avi's. The only other system is Avi's system is the rooftop system, which is a fixed system, which is what they're working on. What they was they want to come up with a prototype, and then they want to expand that to 10 systems on different locations, different buildings, and then maybe
spread it out to a more mobile approach.
Yeah, based on they actually started talking about our system, a mobile system, like they call it the phase 2 or phase 3 end of this. They might start a mobile system, similar to ours.
And so where is a majority, I mean, how much funding has been raised to date, and where is a majority of the funding going? Is it going to help both of you, with creating what really I would believe would be the backbone of the project?
Yeah,
We're not sure of we're not sure. That hasn't really been discussed. He's still putting everything on the table, and I don't know when and how that's going to be distributed, or that's something that hasn't really come up in discussion. It's I think it was like a total of he's looking for more funding. I think he's got a total of $2 million.
Yeah, so
from
far
private donors.
Yeah, I think so far it has to do with more or less what's on, I guess, 2 universities, 2 colleges at this point, and possibility of expanding it over to the West Coast. With
it's still like
with current funding.
I think it's still in the works, and he's still trying to get more funding. He's obviously trying to get a lot more funding than that.
And so do you have any idea if obviously they're looking at a fixed system, and so how would anybody decide the best locations to put this type of a system?
See, that's a good question.
Yeah, that's a good question. Right now, I think it's a matter of convenience on Harvard's rooftop, because you got the scientists there that can monitor it, and it's convenient for them to go to if it's on the roof. I think there's probably better locations, but
I think this is more a test pilot.
It's a test pilot, though. Yeah, it's a prototype. See if it does anything, if it has efficacy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's I guess based on this is why they talk about phase 1, phase 2. Phase
they have
3.
different phases. Where it depends on the success of this phase.
Right.
Interesting. And I know that some of the talk has been from some of the people that have been in the subject for a long time, that Avi has said pretty much from the get-go that he doesn't care about historical data, that's just we're moving from this point forward.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't there be a need though for historical data? Wouldn't that be helpful to figure out specific locations where you would potentially put a site?
That would be our disagreement with that approach. You have to start somewhere. You need a baseline, so you have to look at historical data. I mean, and I don't think it's something that they haven't looked at before. You didn't have a lot of ufologists in academia, and there's a lot of good data out there. I don't know if they're starting to realize that now, but
I don't think he's steadfast on that.
No, he's
that opinion. I think it's
it's
evolving. I think
Avi's,
some of that stuff's evolving.
I think Avi's evolving. There's a partner. He's a partner of Frank Laukin, who's also working with another professor. He's more of a skeptic, so he's not really big on retrospective data. I mean, we're big on it. I think you need a baseline. You need a place to start.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Interesting. And thank you. And I know that we're getting ready to close the show, which just makes me sad because you're coming back again and again. But I want to ask some questions. And just to put this out here for chat, I think obviously with just myself and Mario behind the scenes keeping track of me, it is really difficult to interview people, to engage, and then to read chat and then try to go through questions. And so I apologize if I don't get to all of your questions, but I want to ask a question from Alien Scientist. Have you heard of quantum radar for detecting invisible craft?
I haven't heard of it. I've heard talk of the military, of course, using quantum computers, and I'm sure it might be used in their technology, probably radar technology too. That's something that's probably very classified. Yeah. So I wouldn't know about it anyway.
Yeah, I'm not aware of it.
I think you need a crypto top secret clearance or something like that. Sure. My clearance was secret with a special need to know.
And so, I mean, at the end of the day, when you have things that are a security threat, as we've heard Elizondo say time and time again, this is a
Mhm.
threat. You've got, imagine yourself, seeing these footprints walking through your home, and
Yeah.
how would you feel, and yada, yada, yada. So you've got things that are a threat to humanity or a threat to national security. At what point would this information just be taken off the table for an average citizen, like all of us,
Yeah.
and put into the hands of the military?
That's interesting. This is a discussion that we started. Avi's got a subgroup called the impacts on society, a subgroup that has their own brainstorming sessions on that. And I had brought it up with Avi, and Avi thought it was important too. That's what I thought is that I think it's dangerous to just have it controlled by one department, especially just the Defense Department or National Security, and because if you compartmentalize that, how do you control it? I mean, who makes those decisions?
Right.
And I mentioned, said, I mean, then who's speaking for the human race? Is it the Defense Department? Is it is it the scientific community? That becomes a problem.
And hopefully it's not Jeremy Corbell, because we could all just push the nuclear button now, and I'd be good. But
Yeah. So Avi, I had wrote a whole paper on that, and I submitted to Avi, and he's shared it with the group, and they're in discussions with that. They feel the same thing, that that could be dangerous to think that way.
Well, we had some positive news about
Which
that
is
today,
which actually we had some good positive news. Lou Elizondo attended the meeting, and he kind of lightened that up with the fact that he's a national security guy, but you have to know when to, in his words, you have to know when to shake hands, or you have to know when to have a gun. So he says, yeah. So he said we have to balance that with what we're talking about.
wow. And again,
So
I would definitely say he is not the person I would want to meet, another, an intelligent life form. I hate to say that, but I would rather have you two. I think you would be much better ambassadors for the human race. But
thanks.
yeah,
it's
I mean,
only until the full moon.
and then what happens?
Then we take our masks off.
And do you have that? I mean, are your cameras rolling or not when that happens?
No, I think we turned the cameras the other direction.
I mean, it's just, yeah, it's so, I mean, all of it's so interesting. And like you said, there's so many fascinating personalities. And at the end of the day, when I met you two and we talked
Mhm.
before the show, it was just very refreshing to see that you're spending your own money, that you are both brilliant human beings, that you have a passion for this, that you're doing things for the right reasons,
Mhm.
and you want to get out there and you want to be open and transparent with your information, and you
Yeah.
want to make this a better field of study.
Uh-huh.
And I really respect that and appreciate that. And I know that the people listening to my show feel the same way. We all want to make this an acceptable place for people who have had sightings that have changed their lives,
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
for people that are like you, that have the intelligence and the ability, the knowledge to go out and create what you've created, and to go out there and collect information and share that. And that's really important. And I think that's what a lot of this subject has been missing for so many decades. And
Yeah.
that's unfortunate,
Yeah,
because
it can't be about personalities, and it can't be about beliefs and biases. It has to be a collaborative thing with, an objective thing.
and I think that would be great. And I mean, is there ever, a point, would there ever be a jumping off point for either of you when you say, okay, this isn't working, or we're going to go do do things on our own?
So
Um,
at this point, I don't think so. I mean, it's we're
I
so
mean, we're not really. I mean, we're working with, like I said, we're working with Galileo. We're doing our own research too. So it's like I said, it's a 2-track approach. So, nothing's really tied. It's not tied to exactly what they're doing. It's just that we have a collaborative thing going.
Yeah, but it's
So
the kind of
fun.
thing that
Yeah.
the kind of stuff that was spirited as a kid.
Yeah.
It's all.
It's nice to
kinda-
pursue. It's
kinda
nice to pursue
returns,
it now.
in
Yeah.
a certain way.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
And how
Yes.
and I mean, honestly, could we get the funding for you to transport all of your stuff here?
Oh,
And then
absolutely.
we could go take a little tour through Utah and see what is happening or what's not happening. And do you have any suggestions? I was just going to ask you this. If for somebody who doesn't have the means, the technical skills that you do, like what would you recommend for people who want to get into this, who want to go out in the middle of nowhere and collect information? What would be some of the most basic pieces of equipment you would recommend?
A good set of eyes, critical thinking,
Good judgment.
critical thinking, good judgment, a good camera.
Yeah, definitely a good camera.
Ask the right questions. Research the material thoroughly. Make sure you discriminate what's good information, what's bad information. Talk to the right experts, and pursue your passion.
So your
much.
passion, write everything down. It's
Yep.
You don't rely on the noggin. Don't rely on the memory.
Yeah, some people have gifted insights and other things.
Yeah, I mean, there's some things that just get past you, and it's the same thing as recording data. Live data. It's you definitely want to record things, and like I said, it's
document everything.
you want to
Yeah,
document
yeah.
everything.
And so, a good camera. What would be a good camera for people to get?
I mean, anything that I would probably. The funny thing is most of the cameras that we find much more useful is not the still cameras, although they have video functions to them. It's they tend to be more the video cameras.
Because you can always always get a snapshot off it.
Yeah.
And you can catch it in real time.
And there's software built into a lot of these newer cameras now where you can take the snapshots right off the video frame, so you don't miss anything.
Yeah, with a video camera, you can actually look at the behavior of something.
Right.
We can't with a still camera.
Yes, but the thing is too is also when you're videotaping something, if you're just sitting there snapping shots, you could miss something, even if it's in burst mode or something like that. But video camera, you miss nothing.
You have a chance to catch it.
And so what types of settings? Because we know that, when you're out there filming things at night, that they just look like a little blur.
Yeah, nighttime is tricky. It's everything that we do is we go to manual settings. We don't use any of the automatic. So we set them up. The aperture, the white balance.
It helps to have a night vision camera, IR with IR.
Yeah, and of course most cameras they have night vision capability.
Telescopic lens, maybe.
Definitely a telescopic lens, but what you want to do is you want to if you know where you're going to be filming. If you're going to be filming at a distance, you probably want to set up your telephoto lens to that point. Have the focus already read, if locked in. You could also set up macros for it. Where if you're looking at a certain object, some cameras I know you hit a macro and it'll go to that setting. Where you're not sitting there messing with the settings because things get by really quickly. And many times we would go to record something and be just a little bit too late. You would just miss it. Trying to get the right settings in. Nighttime is most difficult. Because the type of lighting, it throws off the autofocus systems and the aperture settings, the white balance. So those all have to be in a manual mode. This way, and it's got to be tested too. What I normally do is I test it on the moon.
Oh, great.
The moon's not going anywhere. And at least for a while.
There's plenty of different craters stuff to focus on. Yeah.
So you definitely got something you can set it up to get the right proper white balance and that sort of thing. But that's always a good shot. Is setting it up for that. Manual settings.
Interesting. And so I just have to ask you, like, if you're getting like an infrared camcorder or something, like what would you recommend
for like a thermal camera?
No, for a camcorder, it might have IR on it.
I mean, a lot of the camcorders nowadays have night modes. They have the
they call night shot.
Yeah, they call night shot modes and that sort of thing. Where basically in the lens system, there's a filter in there. They call it an IR cut filter,
basically what it does is during the daytime it cuts out that some of that infrared effect from the lighting. At night, you want to kind of eliminate that. You want to get that filter out of there so it doesn't block the IR. The IR is what gives your camera much more light capability, so it becomes much more sensitive to light. The infrared is part of that sensitivity. The optics in the camera, most cameras have what they call near infrared capability, so they do go into the infrared mode, the infrared lighting system, or that kind of with that wavelength. So by taking that filter out of there, if you go to night shot, you'll see it get a lot brighter because it is taking in that infrared light. It's something you won't see with the human eye, obviously. But if you take a camera and put it on night shot, take your remote control to your TV or something and turn the remote control, you'll see that thing blinking away because it's looking at the near infrared radiation that comes out of that remote. That's the kind of thing, and that's a way of testing it too. To see if your night shot is on or it's off.
It's working. Yep.
It's just trying it in. Yeah.
It's. I mean, I want to have you back. Again, because I want you to give me information about specific things that I should be taking out into the field because I love it, and that's really cool. And I think everybody here, after COVID and everything, it's like we just want to get out and look at the sky.
And I'll tell you, the science, it's not just scientists that should be doing it. You need as much data as possible, so if people can get out there and start taking pictures and videos,
right?
They can verify it. They'll say it's well documented. I mean, that's acceptable.
And everybody counts. You have a camera. You're just as capable as anybody else.
Yeah, almost a demographic of data.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is so cool. And so, would you take? Like a compass. How would a compass react if you're around anything? Because I know that that's something that has been, up around Skinwalker Ranch. We've heard a lot about a compass spinning and yada yada yada. What are your thoughts?
Well, I would even go one step further. I mean, if you have a smartphone, the smartphones have magnetometers in them. If you download the app as a magnetometer, the smartphone will show you the intensity of the magnetic field.
There's a lot of technology in those in cell phones. You can actually download those apps, like the magnetometers. They got
and they have compass apps too.
Yeah,
they're very effective. They work really well, and it'll be more responsive than a mechanical compass. They're 3-dimensional or sometimes 4-dimensional. They call them 4D magnetometers, but they're very, very sensitive.
Yeah.
And it'll tell you the intensity in the magnetic field. It'll tell you the direction. So you get a lot of data from it.
It's a single.
There's lots of apps out there.
That might be the single most important piece of equipment. Your cell phone.
Absolutely, your cell phone is the most important piece of equipment.
Yeah.
Well, really like you mentioned, there's so many apps that you can get. I mean, obviously, flight radar. You've got all of these things that you can get on there and make sure you're figuring out what's mundane and what is maybe a little bit out of the ordinary. But I would love it if, maybe in the next month or so, you could recommend some apps for iPhones.
Sure, absolutely.
For the audience and stuff. And maybe in a few weeks, let's have you back. And then we can talk a little bit about that and you can educate all of us because I think we're all dying to get out there and do some really cool things. And when we do that, that helps you. And it's just, I think that'd be really fun.
Yeah, that'd
absolutely,
be
absolutely. And your cell phone is a powerhouse of apps. It really is.
I'm only frightened.
It's got so many different sensors in there that so even me it surprises at times.
It's surprising the amount of sensors that's in there.
Yeah. Proximity sensors, light sensors, your magnetometers,
accelerometers, and
accelerometers. So there's a lot of sensors in there.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm really excited that we've met each other and that you have come on the show and things. I mean, I wish you both the best of luck. You're very genuine and gifted and intelligent, and you're exactly what we need, I think, in this subject for doing research and for educating people and for asking questions. And it'll be interesting to touch base with you in a few months to see how things are going with the Galileo project and setbacks or, things that have happened that are great accomplishments. And I'm hoping, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, that there is a UFO conference over Memorial Day up near Skinwalker Ranch in Vernal, Utah, and I am definitely considering going so I can introduce myself to Avi Loeb and just to say hello to the Skinwalker boys. I'm sure they'd love it.
We'll mention it to Avi Loeb.
Yeah, that would be fun. I would love to meet
Yeah,
him.
we'll mention it to him.
Thank you, and it's wonderful. And so, where can people find out more about what the two of you are doing?
Well, we have our own website.
We talked about it's called the Consortium for Scientific Understanding of Nature's Mysteries. It's on Facebook.
If you do a search on it, it'll come up.
It'll come up.
And also, I think we're going to be putting on the Galileo projects as a, embed the link in there as well.
Yeah, we'll put a link in there.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I will support and promote anything that you guys have, and it's just you're like I said, you're a breath of fresh air.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here, and this is fun.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yes, thanks for your time and
and this is your first show, so congratulations.
And we made it.
You did. And we had fun, and we've gone over showtime and stuff, and I could just keep talking to you guys all night, but it's just wonderful, and thank you, and best of luck, and be safe, and keep us posted.
Oh, absolutely.
And everything. Absolutely. Thanks, you guys. And good night, you guys. And I just want to say again, thank you so much for everybody that gets into UFO Classified, into chat, asks wonderful questions, grounded questions. Sometimes, interesting, we get some interesting feedback, but I have a group of people from all over the world, and I love hearing from Jim, over in Scotland, and I love hearing from people in Ireland and South America and Australia, and it is just a fascinating group of people that I have gotten to know, that I consider part of my family here on UFO Classified. You are all the reason I'm here every week, and it really is a wonderful, it's a blessing for me. It's a highlight of my life, and so I appreciate you. I want to thank all of the people that support the show, that are Patreons and contribute $5, $10, $20 a month to help maintain the show, to keep it on the air. This is a listener-supported show, and like I mentioned, we are just covering costs for the show. Then we have to get into funding for archiving, because this is important for you, for me, for the history of the subject. And this really isn't just about UFOs. This is a very layered and important subject that I believe has a lot to do with political sentiment and religious ideas. It is important. We need to preserve this history. So I want to thank all of you. Thank you, Mario. Thank you, Peter. All of you guys, Amy, everyone for getting in there. You guys have a wonderful and a safe weekend. I will try to stay out of trouble, but I'm just thinking, if I do end up going to Vernal, Utah for the conference, that might not happen. It'll be a good time. So thanks, you guys. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will catch you next week.